Hey guys, how's it going? Today we are going to tour around the garden. I want to show you how things are progressing. I feel like it's going to be somewhat of a winter interest garden tour because things are just now barely starting to break dormancy. We've got some perennials that are really tiny. You can see some new growth. We also have some bulbs that are in bloom, daffodils, but it's been such a long, cold spring. In fact, it called for snow this morning. Thankfully, we missed that, but we do have rain on the forecast for today, and we still have freezing nights. Most of the nights on our 10-day are at or below freezing still at this point. So I think we're like at least 3 weeks behind normal schedule, which I'm not going to complain about it because I know the heat is coming. We thought we would start right up here because I am excited about the bulbs in this area. Now we'll put the names of everything up on the screen because I cannot remember. There was a blend. There was a blend of bulbs in here and then another variety I mixed in. But what I'm especially excited about here, if we can get in on this, Erin, look at the variegation. They're pink. Pink variegated tulip leaves. I love that. So I will look it up. We'll put the name on the screen. I'm used to seeing like the Purissima blonde tulips that have the yellow variegation, but I haven't ever noticed pink variegation in a tulip leaf. So they've come up very evenly and very nice. So this should be a really stunning display here very soon. And then around our urn over here, which I cannot wait to trim boxwood so I can trim off, you know, that winter damage layer. So all of this stuff right here, that's kind of typical. Even if we hit the right pruning window, sometimes I still will get a little tip burn, but this is exciting. We've got alliums in here that we've just planted this last fall. You know, we had the Cafe Noir tulips in here for a number of years, and it was when the boxwoods were a lot shorter, so you could actually see them. And they, you know, some varieties of tulips just peter out, you know, from year to year, and you kind of start having less and less of them, and that's what was happening in here. In fact, I don't even know if I can see any. I haven't removed, oh yeah, right here. There's, this is all that's left, it looks like, of what we originally had in here. So it was time to go in with something that was taller, that we could actually see over the top of the boxwood. So I'm very excited about that. We did a couple of containers up here, but I haven't touched the window boxes yet. I was kind of waiting for warmer weather to do that. But I do have tulips in this pot and that one over there, so that should be really, really nice. These were, when I planted them, they were at the opening of this garden. And we had a grouping of 3 containers here, and we had that for the last 2 seasons, and I just wanted something different. In fact, I'm going to move all the pots in front of the greenhouse too. I'm kind of in the mood for just to simplify a little bit and have maybe larger pieces that are a little bit more striking than a whole bunch clustered together in one area. So that's that. Let's go over here. We do have some beautiful hellebores in bloom. Right in here you can see things are starting to wake up. We've got some columbine, which it kind of carpets this whole area. It will fill in, and they're really pale buttery yellow. They're so, so pretty. And there's a whole bunch of hostas in here. In fact, like right here, there's not even any growth yet, but get a huge big blue hosta in here. And then there's a whole bunch scattered throughout. It really becomes a very thick, full bed in the end. But this is where our hellebores are, most of them anyway. And they are beautiful. Look at the color here. Look at that. The detail of these flowers, it's just phenomenal. Look at this, is a multi-petaled. Then we've got a really dark purple, multi-petal dark. So this one, multi-petaled, but they're kind of clean petals. And then we've got multi-petaled with speckling. I have tags by most of these saying what the names are, I think. Look at this one, got a pale yellow. This one's really neat. Oh, there's hostas all over in here too. I see one coming up right here. Look at this one. And they kind of just span all the way over. I planted some new ones toward this side last year. And so they're a little bit on the smaller side, but really beautiful colors. Some are really little, but we've got a hydrangea and heucheras and hostas that fill in this space. In fact, we could probably toss a picture up of what this bed fills in to look like a little bit later on in the season. But I am happy to see all these little spiky leaves in here. These are all the leucogym, also known as snowdrops. So they come up looking kind of like a daffodil, but then they get these long arching stems that have snowdrop looking blooms. They're really delicate and beautiful. I actually love this view right here because the white light, this is a white lilac right here to the left, but it kind of creates this little arched window, and you can see the fountain through it, the seating area. I really, really like this space. This spot, however, we need to work on this. You know, we had to cap a couple sprinklers when we were working on the garden around the front of the Hartley, and they were sprinklers that watered this section in particular, so they died out. We really need to retool all the lines around this area anyway, so Aaron and I need to get out here and kind of paint lines, figure out where we want things. We do know that we want a pathway that leads from the Hartley to the house because we take this pathway all the time. It was really interesting when we had snow. You could see what pathways we took the most around the house, both through this area and through where we're going to have the brick patio. And it's enlightening, you know, to see it, footprints in the snow. I mean, working that pathway, and then you kind of know like how you should work your space. I'm such a visual person that just seeing that helps me work the flow of the area better and put pathways in areas that make the most amount of sense. We do need to probably cut the grass in further on this side. You know, we've got a giant, glorious weeping willow right up here that I absolutely love, but it is a water user tree. And I think that we struggle in this space because the willow's stealing all the water. That makes the most amount of sense to me. And so instead of trying to fight it, I think we will probably cut this flower bed deeper, and we'll utilize things like more sedum. Sedum does great in here. We've got some pink profusion salvia that's just barely starting to pop. That does really great. Russian sage, some of those things that are lower water users so that they're more compatible with the willow. I have some hydrangeas under here that they're just kind of stunted because I just don't think they get enough water in this space. So we will be retooling this area. I'm going to cut the honeysuckle completely down this year. You can see it's kind of scrubby. It looks like this through the winter. I mean, it keeps its leaves up here, but it's due for a trim. I'm not sure that we've ever cut it all the way back since we moved in.
Once.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, it needs to happen again. It needs a rejuvenation prune, so we need to take after that. It's just on a freestanding trellis sitting here in this flower bed, which I think is a really fun idea to create some vertical interest with a vine instead of a tree or something like that. So anyway, yeah, this whole space really needs to see a little bit of a revamp. We need to move sprinklers anyway, so it's a good time to do that. We just haven't quite figured it out. Let's take a look at the pots and the cold frames over here. They're looking pretty good. We've been leaving the windows open, or lids. We've been leaving the lids open even though we're at right around freezing, and it seems to be just enough protection. I want them to be tough, and ranunculus in general are. If it was to get down into the 20s again, we'd probably close them, but they're doing well. Some are starting to bud up, maybe getting ready to bloom. Yeah, this side looks a little bit more thick, and I need to do some grooming a little bit, but I'm excited. I think it's going to be so pretty when they fill in. I'm very happy with the tulips in these pots. I think they've all come in pretty much the same, very uniform. We've got two different varieties. I think they're both in the pale yellow family. I should have brushed up on my bulb varieties before we did this tour, but we have one variety that gets taller and one that stays shorter that's around the perimeter. But I'm happy with that. And then I'm really happy with this. Oh my word. Look at these tulips and alliums. So the tulips will be blooming first, and you can see, especially up toward the building, they get more heat up there, and so there's a lot more buds that'll be opening here soon. And then after the tulips are done, I don't know, maybe with how weird the weather is, we'll have a little overlap. I'd love to see the tulips and alliums blooming at the same time. But my thought initially was, well, we'll enjoy some earlier color with the tulips and then some later color with the alliums. So we'll just see what happens. And back here, so excited about this, you guys. I was really nervous because these two beds, you know, clearly they're furthest out here. They're very exposed to tons of sun. The tulips in those came up first, and they came up pretty fast, and especially this bed, I couldn't see hardly anything. And I thought, well, I have noticed more squirrel activity, but they wouldn't just target one bed. What's going on here? I did notice that being just, you know, a little bit closer to the greenhouse, they did stay more icy longer than those did. So because the sun in the wintertime is much lower in the sky over here, it just casted enough shade to make these be a little bit behind. But you know, once we got a little bit more warmth and the sun is starting to move in the sky, these picked up, and I think we're gonna have a uniform show. It's gonna be beautiful. I think every single one of the boxwoods, which these are green velvets, they stay a little bit on the smaller side, but every single one of them survived all the way around the Hartley. So it's very exciting. I'm loving it, loving how it's coming together. And I've just recently been thinking about this center area. Got to keep my eyes open for something that just strikes me. I still haven't decided if I want it to be a container or water or what. But speaking of possible water, let's go back to the North Garden here. First off, I've got to show you something kind of funny. Remember the boxwood formation that was back here? Remember how it was filled up with alliums in the spring? Well, we had this whole area, leveled, and I thought, well, they scraped this area up pretty good, and I didn't have a chance to move any of the alliums, and I thought they were goners, but look at them. I noticed some green. In fact, Aaron was like, did you plant something in there? And I came out here and realized that the alliums were still here. So we're gonna get a little bit of a show of alliums, and then I will attempt to move these because alliums are not cheap and they're very beautiful, and I'd love to use them somewhere else in the garden. So we'll do that after they start to kind of die back, after they've bloomed. So we'll get to enjoy them in the circle formation one more year. We also have a few other bulbs that didn't get scraped up. We got some daffodils. We had some iris reticulata blooming back here, but this is right where the flower bed was. That skinny, like 3-foot flower bed right here. It just went the whole distance. Our trees are doing really well. There's a blue spruce here that was put in late last year, looking absolutely gorgeous. All the spruces, everything's looking really good. This is a new one. Well, they were all new last year. Some of them we had just planted earlier, and the big ones we had installed later. But we're thinking for this back North Garden area of putting in a pond. We had a landscaper come over who was actually involved with our pondless waterfall installation. He's connected with Greg Whitstock, and so we've all been kind of chatting and trying to decide on a design for this space. So we'll see what happens. We still haven't decided 100%, but we're just kind of in preliminary design idea stages. I think it would be really pretty back here because it would create a very good reason to come back here, especially if there was some seating around it. And I like that it would be a view from the Hartley, but also if Aaron and I switch spots, you could view it from the house. I don't want to put it directly behind the Hartley, which would be beautiful to look through the Hartley and then see a pond back right behind it, but then the view of it would be blocked from the house. If it's about where you're standing right now, we'll be able to have a view of it from the house as well as from the Hartley. And as we move away further and further from the house, we want the gardens to feel less and less formal. So having something like that back here might be a really fun thing. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. All right, let's head toward the greenhouse, which is on the other side of the barn. We'll see the most amount of green in there. All right, so this is the cluster of pots I was talking about when we were up there. So we've had this grouping of containers, which when they're full of flowers, it does look very pretty and striking, but I'm just in the mood to clear things out. Usually this pot's over here. We're just using it as a doorstop at the moment when we want to pop that greenhouse door open, which I might do. With the sun out, it gets pretty warm in there. But I think I want to just move all of this stuff and leave one big pot. That's the plan. This is my absolute favorite spot, favorite right now. I love it in here. The smell, and I just recently did a greenhouse tour, so we won't go like plant by plant, but since that greenhouse tour, I have moved all of our snapdragons out. I moved our flats of Status out from the studio, flat of Feverfew here, flats of Rudbeckia. So I've just tried to make more space for things. Everything is just doing great. All of these pots down here, these are all the dahlias from the pre-sprout trays. I've been trying to keep up. When I see some growth in those trays, I pluck those tubers out and get them potted up right away so that it doesn't become a huge chore all at one time, and that's been working out well. We're going to be moving these. These are Helichrysum icicles. We'll be moving these out really soon, outside, probably next week, to make room for the rest of the flats that I have in the studio, which there's not that many. But we're about ready to get our annuals as well. Hang on, there's helicopter, I think. Yeah, everything is just looking so great. We've got the Greenstock Gardens right here, which we recently planted up. The seeds aren't up quite yet because it's only, oh, wait a minute. I lie. Now you can barely see them, but the lettuce is starting to germinate. Just a little tiny bit. There's some little white specks in there. I'm excited about this project this year though. because we've got 2 more of these, you know, and I'm wanting to plant some up with like mini tomato plants, peppers. I'd like to do, maybe one of them will do completely in strawberries. But I think I enjoy it so much because I like the color of these. I think the green is so pretty. Our sweet peas looking really good. A lot more growth since our last greenhouse tour. I'm about ready to take some of these out to my parents' house. These are the hollyhocks we started from seed, and I grew double of one variety, the champagne color, so pretty. I knew my mom would love it, so I grew 24 for her and 24 for me. In terms of everything else in here, citrus blooming its head off, looking great. We've got a couple of lemons here, the lime is on the other side. Lettuce heading up and looking awesome, look at that. Just so gorgeous. Geraniums look awesome. Look at this lavender. Look at this. It's supposed to be a topiary. It's like loving its life in here. It's so pretty and it's such a baby. I have to water it every single day. It needs to be in a bigger pot probably. It's beautiful though. Zinnias that we started just the other day are all up. That's 2 of the flats. I got a little bit of a mess going on right here, but anyway, lots of other seedlings, pretty things. So we've got multiple fans in here, which I did point out in the greenhouse tour. We typically have, this one is not working. It's a really old fan, so I think we'll replace that one. But we've got 2 fans here and 2 fans in the back that look just like this to kind of help move air around up top. And then I forgot to turn this one back on. But we usually have these running, and I need to move this one back. We just moved it out of the way of a project we were doing the other day to help, you know, make the seedlings a little stronger. So like this one, when it comes back around, it'll move. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, that'll make for some tough plants. We were just out here like 2 days ago planting up spring crops, and I think almost everything in here, almost every spot is filled. So we have a mixture of spinach and peas, onions, garlic, cabbage, ranunculus that were looking so sad in the greenhouse. They looked horrid. They're looking actually like they're perking up a little bit, but don't look at them close. Don't show a close-up view at those until they have a little time. We've got more onions, carrots, broccoli, and more peas. So we're getting pretty filled up in here already. And then I was out here late last night watering them, so I left the hose on the ground out. West side garden starting to wake up. I'm seeing a bunch of tulips that we planted last fall. And then look at this. This is one of the coral charm peonies that we moved. I don't think peonies like to be transplanted, but almost every single one that we moved last year from behind the gazebo and from the north garden area survived. Every single one but one, I think. And it might still push. It's out in the south garden. But I'm very excited about all of the perennials that we worked on last year, because I feel like it was the first season we really focused some attention on this space. And I'm kind of sticking with pinks, purples, chartreuse, and white colored flowers in this area, keeping it very cool. And I have absolutely no plans to plant at the back sides of these, and I don't know if I ever will, because I love the structure here. I love the breathing space. We thought about initially like maybe we should put a bench in here, but I don't even think I want to do that. At this point, I love the structure of these boxwoods so much, and the maple trees have grown so much. Do you remember when we planted these? How old are these, Aaron? Like 3, 4?
4 or 5.
Not 5. You think they're 5?
Yeah, planted them
really?
ago, yeah.
Well, this is what 5-year growth looks like on the Red Point maple. I mean, it's just phenomenal. They're amazing trees. And you know, we plant up these wells usually every summer. Some of the tulips are still kind of in there from a couple of years ago. Anyway, so we do have some plans to put some pretty things in there. And I think with the fluff and the color in those planting areas and the boxwood structure, I don't really feel like anything's needed right here, especially with how this side is filling up. This is going to be very cottagey. I mean, there's a formality about it with the urns, but I love all of the cottagey looking flowers. A lot of David Austin roses, a lot of delphinium, lady's mantle, caryopteris. There's some lady's mantle looking really fresh. I love that perennial so much. I think they're just the sweetest plant. We've also got Stokes aster, spirea in here. There's a buddleia. But yeah, everything. Oh, delphinium. See, they're already starting to go for it. And I just went ahead and left the stakes out over the winter so that I didn't forget to stake my plants this next year. They're already ready to go. Are you proud? Just haven't staked up that grass in the front yet. Look at these first blooming daffodils on our property right here. They're absolutely gorgeous. And these are windflowers right here, and they are closed up right now because it's still fairly early and it's cold, but these will be nice big open white flowers. And the weird part about this plant, they come out like this every spring, look gorgeous, bloom for several weeks, and then they completely disappear. You forget the plant's even there. In fact, I've almost planted over the top of them. I actually kicked one out of the ground once when I thought there was nothing here. I forgot I had planted these. I was able to plant it back and it survived, so I was thankful for that. But they do want to kind of spread themselves just a little bit. So I didn't plant that one, nor did I plant that one. There's one back in the daffodils, and I'd really love for them to kind of fill themselves in this space, because they really are a dainty, sweet little spring flower. I want to do another tour. Maybe we'll do it in a couple of weeks when more spring color is out. We'll take a quick walk through the south garden here in a second. You'll see spring bulbs up everywhere, but no color, hardly any color out there yet. It's going to be glorious here in just a few days probably, but I just love seeing this color peek out, and this corner really has filled in. There's all kinds of stuff in here. There's no room to plant anything else actually once it fills in. And we've got, like, this will turn into beautiful white blooms. This is a spring snow crabapple multi-stem. We've got a 9-bark in here. We've got an instant karma elderberry. There's a serviceberry tree. This is a black cat pussy willow, which is so pretty. Look at the catkins on this thing. They're enormous. Such a gorgeous plant. I love it. I want more of these for the south garden. Okay, I think what we should do is go back this way and look at the kitchen garden area and then walk back down the west side of the house.
What are you gonna do in this space right here?
What space?
The space that doesn't have anything in it.
Well, we've got a gorgeous maple and a really pretty fountain that will probably get up and running next week, and a hollyhock that will not die, you guys. This hollyhock is the strongest plant in our entire property, in our entire garden. It's been run over so many times. It doesn't have drip to it, and it just thrives in this space. Something that we do need to do though in this area is we need to broaden out this flower bed on this side, and I think that will help me start figuring out what I want on this side. It was never my intention to leave it this skinny. We just kind of weren't ready. I don't know. I wasn't ready to make a decision on the shape for this space. What needs to happen at the very end here is we need to have a nice big planting area so it can support some structural things. Such a huge walkway, and it's a very wide walkway, that we need to have some bulk around it for it to feel like it's to scale, because right now it doesn't. So the flower bed might envelop that tree, might go just beyond it, I'm not sure, but either way it needs to come out quite a bit. Erin just aerated the lawn, so there's these little soil plugs everywhere. But the lawn was so brown this winter, and it's starting to green up and look really pretty. You've done some amendments, haven't you?
Not yet.
Oh, not yet?
No.
Wow, it looks really good. So Aaron had an interesting idea when we were talking about pond placement. He thought that it would be kind of pretty to have one up here maybe. I think we've landed on probably the back garden for the pond, but the initial idea was to have the flower bed be broad, and then instead of going all the way up to the house, have it kind of take off this way, so that all this area is actually flower bed and pond area, and then the grass area is this way. Were you thinking like right here, Aaron, initially?
I was actually thinking a big pond and even removing this tree.
Oh, see, and then for me, I feel like that's like crunching a lot of stuff up against the house instead of having things be spread out. I don't know. I love this tree too. It's such a pretty tree. It's one of my favorites. I think it's a Donald Wyman crabapple, but big, beautiful white blooms, beautiful red berries. The birds love it. And this is where we feed the birds all winter long. But I do still like the idea possibly of having more planting areas up here and having the grass start out further. It might make things make more sense. Also, where these 3 windows are, we've thought about possibly putting in a French doors. That's where our dining room table is. It'd be fun to have it come right out onto like maybe a flagstone patio and kind of like a outdoor living area right here. Kind of what we got going on, except for it's kind of a mess. I forgot we've got packages up on the front porch. See that wicker chest? That's it. Let me grab it. That's for the kids' toys. I'm gonna try to tidy things up a little bit. I thought this might make it look better to have the toys in it instead of always scattered all over the place. So Anyway, this is where we spend a lot of time with the kids. In the evenings, we sit in the chairs. When storms roll in, Benjamin loves to come out here and sit because the storms roll in right over here. And we have a clear shot to those. So no matter what we end up doing, it would be nice to still have a lot of seating up in this area. And it's generally the most shaded spot. We have thought about getting the kids a little play set and putting it in this area right here-ish. It's kind of a menagerie right now because we brought this up for the birds for the winter. We'll probably remove that, put it somewhere else. But it might be kind of nice because it is shaded in this space. And this is where we naturally spend a lot of our time. Okay, now let's head back to the kitchen garden area. All right, so moving into this area right here, number one, we got the brick walkway and the rock wall done this last year, and we're really liking how it's coming together. I mean, you can look straight through there. Your view is of that fountain again, and I just really like this view. Also, daffodils. This whole space is full of daffodils. And hellebores now. We planted like 40 some little hellebore plugs this last year. One of them looks like it's actually gonna bloom. Oh no, two of them. What? Look. We've got a little bud right here. We've got a little bud right here. That is exciting. Any of the other ones? Maybe one more over there. Oh, it's gonna be so pretty when they fill in. They go all the way to right in front of this. This is a double file viburnum right here. And you can see the Brunnera is coming back. We've got 5 of them in this space. It looks like all but one. Nope, that one has growth. All of them are coming back. Good. But you can see like the hydrangeas, we do have buds on them, but they haven't leafed yet. Almost. We're getting so close. We have to do a little bit of work on this wall here because you can see all the orange. See all the orange sides on the stone. This is the same stone that we used on the Hartley floor, except for this was left in natural big flagstone pieces, and the stuff we used in there has been snapped to be smaller, like more rectangular and square shapes. But when we were having the rock wall built, I didn't want any of the orange sides to show, and you can really go through a lot of the palette and you can pick out the mostly gray stones, which was accomplished on this side, but on this side you can see orange all over the place. And there's even a few orange sides sticking out, and that orange fights with the cool tones in the bricks to me. It does something to me. So we'll kind of be swapping some of those out. But we did unearth our furniture. So I ordered this from Frontgate last year in the fall, and they kept pushing it out, and they kept pushing it out and pushing it out. And we finally got it. When was it, Aaron? November? Yeah. And we immediately covered it. Like, Paul took it out of the boxes. He left the cushions in the plastic and then put the covers over the top. So I never even sat in them. So all winter long, I'm like, I hope it's comfortable. Well, I don't know, I've never sat in this furniture, but the thing I loved about this furniture is the lines. I love the lines of the arms. I love this detail on the legs. I love how, just the shape of them. I had the hardest time finding furniture that I really liked the shape of, like, all the legs. I don't like it when, I don't know. I just had a hard time picking them out. I also love the backs. Look at the backs of these chairs. I think the reason why I'm always really kind of picky about the furniture is because, especially when where it's at, we look at it from different angles, and the lines of furniture when I'm taking pictures especially makes a huge difference to the composition of the picture. I know that sounds weird, and I'm not a photographer, but there's just certain things that stick out to me in pictures and some that don't. I take a lot of pictures from this angle. Like, I'll stand over here and I take a picture through this way. So I'm clipping the back of those chairs in most of the pictures. And to have something very beautiful and architectural looking just does it for me. I don't know. So I was very excited about these, and they are so comfortable. We've already spent a bunch of time sitting out here on them, and I'm actually thinking about moving this set out to where our new brick patio is going to be, and getting the matching bistro set that kind of goes with this set and putting the bistro here because it's right by our kitchen. We'd probably use it to eat all the time. It's always shaded here. First thing in the morning you get some sun, but it is shaded for the rest of the day. So I think it'd be an ideal little dining area. There's a cozy coop at the back door. Okay, let's head down the west side. No movement on the brick patio yet. He said they're gonna start next week. So there's no update to that space. The last video we did in that area was planning out the brick patio area. So that's where it stands. Katsura Japanese maple, just about ready to burst. Oh, I love that tree. It's so pretty. And then this whole west side area, full of bulbs. Again, the Delmasa variety. So it's a multi-petaled, creamy white and kind of a peachy orange color. So pretty. You can see the Iris reticulata. This group bloomed first. This side gets more sun in the afternoon than this side does. So this side bloomed out, almost bloomed out, and then this side just started in. Kind of fun to see how things react in like relatively the same area. But the daffodils right here are looking so great. Look at these. They're so gorgeous. And then the hardy geraniums, one of the best perennials ever. They're so shade tolerant and they just are like always there. Everything's looking great in this space here. Haven't done any spring plantings or anything like that in here. Got another grouping of hellebores that really act weird. This one always blooms really well. And then these are catching up. Some of these will bloom like towards summertime. I don't know why. We do have a little bit of color. So back up here in the front, we have a little bit of color in these bulbs here. These were part of the, I want to remember what that blend was. I had a blend of bulbs that I planted here. And I planted, remember when we had the flower beds up here? I planted bulbs there and in that flower bed, and they're still coming up. I think I intended on digging those out last year and didn't get around to it, obviously. Okay, south garden. So entering into the south garden, you can see we do have one variety of daffodils up and blooming. I think, is this Casada? It might be. I love this creamy yellow with a little bit darker of a creamy yellow. So gorgeous, look at that. Such a pretty flower. This area, we could probably throw up some footage or maybe a picture of what it looks like in season. And I mean, Erin and I were talking last night about how just 2 years ago, it looked like Mars out here. I mean, we have a video of us planting some Spring Grove arborvitaes over there, and it was just, it looked like we were on another planet. And so I'm very happy with how things are starting to come together, but even in a month's time, it's just gonna look so dramatically different. And we are working on winter interest and like cultivating that. And honestly, like we left up most of our perennials all winter long, and they did add a lot of bulk and a lot of interest. But then you have that window in the spring where you wanna get them cleaned up, but they haven't started to push new growth yet, so it looks pretty bare. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on out here. We have a bunch of bulbs coming up in this space. These are all the Menton tulips. So they'll be big, kind of a pinkish apricot color. So pretty. They'll be very striking right out there. And we have been making an effort to get some more of this pathway done. But I'm really excited about this, especially from this angle. So we just moved the arbor from the maze garden over to this rock pathway area. And we're gonna grow something awesome on it. I don't even know what yet. I'm not sure if I wanna go roses. I might do something different, but I think it adds a crazy amount of structure in this space. We don't have a lot of vertical structure in hardscape, so I think that adds a lot of interest. And I think it's gonna be wonderful out here. It's such a sunny, hot area. If we have some kind of wonderful vine creating this little shaded walkway tunnel, it's gonna be awesome. We're working on, just started planting some more shrubs, these yellow twig dogwoods and perennials. Just got this crabapple tree planted yesterday. So, slowly but surely. Although, when you look at 2 years, it was only 2 years ago, looking as Mars as it was, we've really made quite a lot of progress, I think. We've got a lot of species tulips coming up right here. They're like the little wild tulips. Some more daffs. Really want to start working on this area. I mean, I've got some red twig dogwoods. There's 5 of them in there. We've got a little evergreen, but I think we need to put a great big something. Like what? Like right in here, Erin? Like something architectural and big right here. And then, yeah, we just need to start filling in this space, this spot. I kind of work in pockets. It's weird. Like I'll just start in one space and it just kind of snowballs from that space, and then I'll start another little pocket. I'm not as good as like just at plunking here and there, I don't think. Okay, cut flower garden. It's pretty slicked up at the moment. So we've got our rows of drip tape in here that we've got to adjust things because last year was when we seeded the grass in here, which you'll notice a ton of weeds. And in fact, Benny's crew was here yesterday. They were fixing like the overspray. They had the wrong heads on the corners. So I'll show you over here where it's a little bit worse, but the water wasn't hitting the entrances of this space, so none of the grass took. But I also had my rows of stuff way too close. So I have like bells of Ireland and pincushion flowers and stuff. And this is right where the line is supposed to be of grass, right here. All my stuff was just over the whole grass pathway area, and it was blocking the water. So I need to adjust everything in a little bit so that it allows the grass the room it needs. Aaron thinks we should just eliminate this whole front row. And maybe that's the easy fix for this year. Just cap that one and see how the rest of these fill in. I don't want there to be too much of a gap though. I want stuff to be close to the grass so that when you know what I mean? So it looks framed. We're working on a new project right here actually this afternoon. This is where the maze garden was. And then, you know, Aaron and I came out and figured out the circle area. We got the lines cut. We're trying to decide on whether to do a 6 foot or an 8 foot size bench. It's hard to say. You know, 6 foot is a very nice, manageable size, but for this large of an area, 8 foot might be what we need for scale. We'll cut out the center here and either do a planting bed, some kind of a fountain, something like that. The dahlia patch has been unearthed. We'll see how it does, see if it comes back. Got some drip tape that's kind of getting crazy there. This space in the cut flower garden I'm going to be dedicating to perennials. Maybe not fully this year, but I want to move toward having, you know, all perennials in this space. I think that would be really nice. But I'm still planning on growing sweet peas and probably sunflowers on those ranch panels over there this year. And we do have our crop of wheat. Let's take a closer look. So like right here, you guys, the grass didn't come up. There's a sprinkler here, but it was the wrong head. So nothing was getting water right here. Look at this wheat. This is gonna be so much fun to see grow and fill in. My dad said I did need to get out here. I've not ever grown wheat before. So he said I need to get out here with like some of the plant tone and sprinkle it on the wheat and then water it in. And that should be good. So we'll see. We're growing it for decorating purposes because, you know, my mom and I like to go out and forage for wheat. We have a lot of farmers in our area who will let us come out after they've harvested their wheat. Usually there's like a little row on the edge left. We'll go and cut that, which is fun, but I thought it'd be fun to get some experience growing it, number one. And then it would be nice for us just to be able to come out and get what we need right here, not off the side of the road somewhere. Yesterday, I planted the boxwoods in the pots, put a little compost on top of the soil, even though I'm gonna be working this soil. I just wanted to see what it would look like once it's a little bit more tidy, and we'll work on these stones a little bit, create our walkway out, and then this will be grass. This is the last area we're gonna be seeding with grass this year. The orchard's looking really pretty. In yesterday's video that I filmed, I did give a closer up update, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but it's just, look at the color. Can you see it in the camera very well?
A little bit.
In person, it's so sweet. And we still have, maybe you need to get in there where it's thicker, Aaron.
No, that's good.
Does it?
Yeah.
We've got more bulbs in there, more late blooming bulbs that get a lot taller. So I'm hoping that those start to pop and fill in here fairly soon. Okay, now see the weeds in this grass? What are you gonna do, Aaron? Are we gonna come out here and hand pull? I think a lot of this is purple mustard. You need to get it out of here before it's done blooming. I always like to enter the south garden from right here because I love to see the curves of the grass. Isn't that pretty? I think it's just so pretty. Now this is one of the blue spruces that was in our back garden. We planted it back there and had it lifted and moved out here. I'm really excited that it's in this space. This is where we had cannas and some leftover plants from our college planting project last year, and it did really well in this space. We do have some dafts blooming here. These kind of look like the ones that we saw in the entrance over there, except for a little bit brighter of yellow. But there's just bulb foliage everywhere in here. And I like seeing where the evergreens are starting to bulk a little bit. Like those are the Spring Grove arborvitaes I was talking about, and they were tiny when we planted them, like what, this tall? Maybe?
Smaller than that.
Like,
yeah,
they were little. And now they're looking really nice. And it was such hard pan in this space. Remember, like the auger was getting hot and smoking. Those three right here. I wonder if we have footage of me next to them once we planted them. Like how much taller, like this one's taller than I am. And they're really starting to open up and look really good. There's just perennials everywhere in here, you guys. And all of the green you see in this space, all bulbs. These are the bulbs that Gabe and Katie, the friends of ours who came from the Seattle area, they helped me plant so many bulbs, like 2,500 in the orchard. And then we came through and planted, I'll have to ask Katie, I can't remember, a couple thousand more out here. I think our forsythias are gonna be starting to bloom here. I just noticed, Aaron, yesterday, that this one looks like it's well on its way. Oh yeah. Can you believe that? Here we are. What day is it today? Like April 15th. And the forsythias are just now starting to open. It's wild. It's the weirdest spring ever. Love all the moisture though. In fact, we've had flood warnings for like the past week because all of our bodies of water around here are getting so full. Just so needed. It's awesome. One of my favorite plants, well, the Norway spruce, right? That was probably, okay, so of all the big trees that we had installed last year, what a treat that was. I never thought I would see that being done in person, let alone in my own garden. But this is one of my favorite ones. One, because it just created such huge impact right here at the very beginning of our property, but also the blue spruce up in the Versailles garden, right where we lost the other one that I loved so much. That was a really, like a, yeah, it was a good moment to see that one go in. The scillas that we planted beneath, you probably can't see them as well now, but they were quite the carpet and really, really beautiful. And then we've got, you know, a hedge of limelight prime hydrangeas. This is one of my favorite smaller evergreens that we have. This right here is a blue sky Serbian spruce. And I love the structure of the plant. I love the cones when they come out are kind of like a purpley blue color, and it's just so beautiful. It just does so well in our space. I love it. But we've really filled in a lot out here. Like this is a snowball bush right here. There's 3 of them out here, and you guys know how big those get, like 10 feet, 10 by 10. There's black lace elderberry right there. There's a red fox katsura, a ginkgo. This is a gin fizz juniper, which I think these get like 18 feet wide. Maybe it's 18 feet tall. Can't remember. Arctic fire dogwoods. There's a lot in this space. You just can't see it quite yet. There's also, like right behind Erin here, there's a whole bunch of bulbs. I think these are daffodils I planted last year. I want to pop out onto the new property real quick, kind of explain what we've got going on here. We're not doing a whole lot with this space, but we did mark out, Paul and Bethany came out here and marked out where the road would be if we matched this one. So, you know, as you're coming down the lane, if you were to take off into this side, or go off onto this side, like if you saw it from a drone, we kind of want it to match. Anyway, so that's what all the flags are doing out here. But I also wanted to show you our big piles of stuff that we recently had delivered. This right here is the compost that we use for mulch. So we had a couple of truckloads brought in because we're gonna remulch everything. But this is what it looks like. So it's not, I mean, it's like more like soil than mulch, but there's still some chunks in it. But the thing I love about this is that it doesn't gray out. It doesn't look all dried out and gray. It stays a nice color. Plus I know we're adding some good stuff to the soil. In the cut flower garden, I like to use something a little bit different. This is what they just call a natural mulch. Because we use a lot of land and sea in the garden, or in the cut flower garden rows, like where we plant stuff, it's a really nice dark rich color like that. In the rows, or in the walking paths rather, I like to use something different so it contrasts. It just visually is really pretty, and this is way less expensive. If we're putting this in walkways where we're not going to be planting anything really ever, I don't mind putting something like this, and it worked out really well last year. It's like less than half the cost of the other stuff. And then right back here we're growing a beautiful crop of green weeds. There's some pasture grass out in there though too. You know, if you look right in here. I do know at one point they seeded some dryland grass seed. So we'll see what comes up. Okay, let's finish up the very last part of the south garden, then I think we hit it all. It's funny, the other day, well yesterday when I planted the crabapple out here, everything looks so spread apart, you know, all the trees, especially when they don't have leaves on them. But it looks like we have a tremendous amount of space to plant things, but when you start to take into account the mature sizes of a lot of these trees and plants, we really, I mean, in a few years, I think it'll be very, very full. This is probably the most full area when in season. It's so full of perennials and shrubs and things. This right here is one of the peonies that the big one. Remember the great big peony we dug up and moved? And I thought, well, it's either to dig it up and move it or lose it altogether. I'm glad I dug it up and moved it. It looked terrible. After I transplanted it, like that day, it just wilted up and looked horrible. And I thought, oh, I just killed this poor plant. But it survived. So I did 2 others in this space. This is the one that I just drove by last night, so I didn't look. Oh, there is growth. I couldn't see it from the gator. Not quite as much growth, but there are a couple of, like 4 or 5 fresh growth points. And then there's one more right there that I can see several growth points coming up. That's exciting. I love that. Success. Everything's gonna look so good when we mulch it. So that dark colored mulch is gonna go on top of all of this stuff. You know, when we initially mulched out here, we used wood chips, which you can kind of see coming up through the compost. We used compost last year on top of the wood chips, but I think it's gonna take a year or 2 more to get a good enough layer on top for those wood chips not to make their way back up to the surface. This space right here is where we held our shrubs that we had on hand for projects. So, I mean, this whole area, and it's a good sized flower bed area, was completely full. Just lines of containers. We put them out here because they got full sun, which they needed, and they were near a water source, which is right over here. But this year, I'm hoping not to have to put them over here. We're hoping to pop up a couple of high tunnels on the new property, close enough to the corner, maybe by the mulberry tree where there's water access, so we can keep them a little bit more protected, keep them watered, but then have them a little bit more out of the way because I was limited. I couldn't plant anything over here, really. I mean, we planted these because it was so early. I think we planted these before we got the plants in. These are flame willows. They look awesome. But that means this year we can start working on filling in some of this space right here. We do have a choke cherry, more flame willows, and I put a few things in here. There's the weeping white spruce. We've got some pillar hibiscus of unknown color. I can't remember what color they are. Maybe a pink. I did plant 16 of the Ringo double pink roses right here recently. And then we've got a Centaura double blue lilac right here. And it looks like you can see where the blooms are gonna be. That's exciting. And a Kwanzaa cherry, which will be blooming double pink here soon. And you guys, I think that's it. That is it for our mid-April garden tour for 2023. Looks a little different than past Aprils, but you know, every year is a little bit different. It's been a really nice spring, probably the most relaxed one that I can remember. I've enjoyed a lot more things this year because I've had time to do it. So we will try to get out here maybe in a couple of weeks. Maybe we should do like a twice-a-month garden tour. Do you think that's a good goal? Would you guys like that? Twice a month we walk through and just take a look at some of the changes, see how things are progressing. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this super long garden tour. Hope you're having a great day and a great spring. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.